Welcome back to Trend Guards. In today's explainer, we are stripping away all that industry hype to look at the hard, verified facts from August 2026. If you want to know exactly what's actually happening in the AI sector right now, you're in the right place. We're starting off with a massive market-moving Reuters report about DeepSeek hardware ambitions, and then we're diving into a fully confirmed, drastic pricing overhaul from OpenAI. The whole AI landscape is shifting, right? It's moving from a battle over just model capabilities to a full-on war over hardware, pricing, and international compliance. So let's break down exactly how all these pieces connect. So, the most consequential facts this week come from two totally distinct layers of the AI stack. First up, according to an exclusive report from Reuters, DeepSeek is currently developing its very own custom inference chip to actively bypass US export sanctions. Huge deal. Second, based on official documentation released on July 30th, OpenAI has officially slashed its GPT-5.6 Luna pricing by a staggering 80%. 80%. We're going to look at what both of these events mean, how they're verified, and why they represent a fundamental shift in the whole AI economy. So, based on that Reuters report, DeepSeek is making a massive strategic pivot. They're reportedly moving away from a highly vulnerable reliance on restricted Nvidia and Huawei chips, and instead, they are developing custom, in-house silicon. As we know, US export controls have severely limited Chinese access to advanced hardware, like Nvidia's H100 and B200 GPUs. Well, by developing its own chip, DeepSeek aims to completely bypass those sanctions. And what's really interesting here is that reports indicate this custom silicon is highly optimized for inference, the actual running of models for end users, rather than just training. This really highlights how the market is maturing. The primary bottleneck and the biggest cost center is shifting right towards serving these models at scale. And the real-world impact of this? It extends way beyond just one company. The entire US export control strategy is basically built on the assumption that Chinese AI advancement requires American hardware. If DeepSeek proves they can build competitive hardware at a fraction of the cost, which, remember, they already did with their incredibly cheap models, that foundational assumption protecting Nvidia's market dominance fundamentally changes. We are literally talking about a potential recalibration of a $2 trillion AI hardware market. In fact, when Reuters broke this story, Nvidia shares immediately edged lower. Wall Street clearly recognizes that these alternative hardware supply chains are moving from theory to reality. On July 30th, OpenAI officially slashed the price of its GPT-5.6 Luna model by an unprecedented 80%. Let me be clear, this isn't some industry rumor. This is a verified update to their API pricing structure, and it fundamentally alters the economics for developers building on their platform. Now, looking at the competitive landscape reveals a pretty stark reality. Prior to this massive cut, OpenAI was charging $6 per 1 million output tokens for Luna. They just dropped that cost all the way down to $1.20. Input tokens saw a similar plunge, going from $1 down to just 20 cents. This is effectively a massive market recalibration in response to highly capable, low-cost models. To put that into perspective, DeepSeek's V4 stable model, which was released just days prior, sits at an incredibly low 44 cents per million output tokens. Basically, OpenAI had to compress their margins significantly just to stay competitive in a landscape where cost efficiency is suddenly king. In their official blog post, OpenAI stated that this 80% price reduction was because they, and I quote, improved the efficiency of the systems that serve them. But, well, the timing tells a slightly broader story, doesn't it? Arriving exactly 6 days after DeepSeek V4 launched, and mere days after models like Kimi K3 released their weights entirely for free, the wider industry context strongly suggests this was a strategic necessity. For years, OpenAI competed almost entirely on capability. But now, the data is showing us they are being forced to aggressively compete on price too. So the crucial point here is that Qwen 3.8 Max proved it isn't just a simple coding assistant anymore. According to verified coverage by CNBC, this 2.4 trillion parameter open weight model just demonstrated a 16-day consecutive run as a long-horizon autonomous agent. It didn't just rate little snippets of code. It autonomously managed entire software project workflows. We're talking collecting requirements, dispatching issues, and deploying updates all without human intervention. Generating 265 commits and submitting 127 pull requests completely independently, that forces us to recognize that open-weight AI is crossing a major threshold right now, moving from basic assistance into total automation. Let's see how these diverging paths are building a really complex compliance map for developers. We are seeing a stark divergence in global policy right now. On one side, the United States is prioritizing voluntary, government-vetted safety tests and industry collaboration for frontier models. Conversely, the European Union has completely abandoned voluntary measures. They're shifting instead to mandatory, legally binding rules that require immediate technical compliance from literally any company operating within their borders. And the EU is not bluffing here. As of August 2nd, the European Union AI Act's Article 50 is strictly enforceable. This mandate requires transparent labeling of AI interactions. What that means is users must be explicitly informed when they are interacting with AI, whether it's a customer service chatbot or a deepfake generator, and failure to comply is no longer just a slap on the wrist. It can now result in verified statutory fines of up to 15 million euros or 3% of a company's total global turnover, whichever is higher. This is a severe compliance reality that every single global tech company is actively auditing for today.
Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the U.S. regulatory path led directly to a major August 4th White House meeting. Bloomberg and other sources verified that representatives from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and Microsoft were invited to establish new cybersecurity reviews for these rapidly advancing systems. This follows a very clear arc. We had a June executive order, a July AI action plan, and an August 1st deadline for a voluntary review framework. So the U.S. approach still remains heavily focused on public-private partnerships and cybersecurity containment, which contrasts sharply with the EU's immediate hard financial penalties. The AI industry is no longer competing solely on model benchmarks. Success now requires navigating a really complex, multi-layered environment. For you investors out there, the actionable takeaway from that Reuters report is to closely monitor the custom silicon supply chain, because relying strictly on Nvidia carries totally new geopolitical risks. For developers, the math has completely changed. You've got to recalculate your infrastructure budgets utilizing OpenAI's new 20-cent input pricing alongside capable open-weight alternatives like Quen. For compliance teams, the EU AI Act demands immediate product audits for transparency labeling. And for security professionals, those White House meetings are a clear signal that even under a voluntary framework, strict safety testing protocols are absolutely going to become the industry standard. Based on the verified reports from this week, I want to leave you with this question to consider. As we move into 2027, will the push for custom, sanction-bypassing chips from companies like DeepSeek or the rise of highly autonomous, open-weight models force the biggest shift in the AI landscape? Both of these forces are actively eroding the established monopolies of hardware and closed-source software. Thank you for joining me for this TrendGuards Explainer. We're going to continue tracking these verified developments, keeping you informed on the exact facts driving the tech industry forward. Stay curious and stay vigilant.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next video.